Hey, everybody. Hello. Hello, attention in the room. Hi, my name is Karen. And if you haven't guessed yet, I'm not a brewer. But I am in the wellness room, and if you don't come see me, I will remember you, your faces, and I will come and stalk you, because we have a really quick survey we want you to take. We're kind of taking a check-in on the pulse of the mental health of the brewer industry here in New York State, and it's completely anonymous. And we have some good resources, and you can get a chair massage and all of that good stuff. But I'm with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We've been an allied partner of the NYSBA for 3 years now, and I'm really grateful for that partnership, and it's been cool to see the way it's grown, and I absolutely applaud them for having a wellness area this year and for having conversations like this. So I want to introduce you to, how many of you know Chris? Raise your hand. Oh, okay, so he doesn't even really need an introduction. So I want you to pretend for a minute that you don't know him. I didn't know him before we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago on the phone, and I absolutely applaud him for his courage in being able to talk about his own mental health journey. This is something that we don't feel comfortable with, right? Nobody wants to talk about mental health. We ask each other, how are you doing? I'm good, right? I'm fine, things are great, yeah. But taking care of our mental health is just as important as taking care of our physical health. So this guy here, I'm really proud of him. I know he's going to share his story with you. I'm here to answer any questions and to help out at the end a little bit. My contact information is, I've got my cards here and all, and we've got this great little handout with all the chapter information for New York State. But with that, Chris, the owner of Rock Brewery, I keep messing up names today. Rock Brewery is going to share his story with you. So please give him your attention. And we'll answer questions at the end.
Thank you. So I'm glad to be here today to talk to everyone. There are a number of you in this room who know me very well, including my best man, and who have seen me through some of my hardest times. And I'm really fortunate that I'm in the place that I am today to be able to talk about mental health and how hard it can be, but more importantly, having the confidence to talk about it and how much it will help you, and it's helped me. So, I want to kind of, tell you my story. This slide is, what does depression look like? This is what depression looks like. These are some of the worst times in my life with some of the closest people I know. My lovely wife, who was mad that I have like 15 photos of her in this. These were all times where I was personally struggling, but social media, right? We put our lives out there, and you get to see this, fabricated life that we create. But these smiles are not my genuine smile. They're not me. I'm happy to be at some of these places. Some of them I'm not. Like this one over here is our big event of the year, Celebration of Cream Ale. First year we did it. Amazing. I had an amazing day, but the amount of stress I was under at that time was a lot, and it was mainly the brewery and was weighing on me. So, this is what we see. This is that, how are you doing? I'm good, and sometimes it's better to go past that. It doesn't take a lot. It's just, how are you doing? And when you get that hesitation, I'm here to talk to you. And that's where I've grown, and I've had a lot of help from my friends. But, this is the toughest year of my life. And I want to bring it up, and I bring these two contrasting experiences here because in the worst year of my life, I had the best day of my life. I was so over the moon, and I'll get into those, and I will get into, both of these experiences. But, shortly after having the best day of my life, I could barely get out of bed. And having my wife turn around and say to me, do I need to stay home today because she is so worried of what's going to happen, that's tough. And that I will always remember her face. And just so you're aware, I had been in therapy for over a year at that point. So I was working towards it, and it's still not getting better. But luckily, I'll get into my toolkit later. But you can have happiness in your worst times, and at the end of the day, it's not. It's a lot of things. So, like I said, this is my crew. One of the biggest things you need is just having conversation, right? Will help you so much. These people love you. They love you a lot. One of the biggest things that I really got to see as I went back and started this presentation was I got to look and see how not alone I was. When you're depressed, you feel alone. You feel like you're on an island. Even when you're in a group of people that you love, that you care about, it can feel so overwhelmingly alone. But really, these people are here. You don't know what your team, and you may not have a big team, you may have a small team, but those people who care, they really do care, and they want to know. And these are the people that got me through some of the worst times of my life. I'm really close with my family. My mother is my business partner, has been. She was the one who bought us Sunbrook Kit, so it's really all of her fault. But she's a huge part of my life. Family is key to me, and these people right here. Some of you in this room, the Rochester 5 Brewers community, we are so tight knit, and we love each other. And most of these are my ride or die. Like they'll do anything for me, and we'll do anything for them. And having that, but honestly, at the time, it was hard to see. It was hard to see some of that, and you have to be vulnerable to these people, right? Because at the end of the day, it sucks feeling the way that I felt. I felt terribly alone. I felt like the world was falling in on me. I didn't sleep for like 3 years. That was always fun. That will mess with you. But I started opening up to people, and I started my journey towards, happiness and moving past it. And this is something too, like when you're depressed, you can be happy. I'm giving everyone in this room permission that if you're really struggling with mental health and you have a great day, take it. Take it and run with it. This day was the best day of my life. We had an amazing group of people at our wedding, all of our friends, all of our families. I took my phone, I handed it over to my parents. I actually had to call them back on someone else's phone because they took my keys and everything that night. But I sat in this moment and I took that happiness in the darkest times. I mean, we were struggling, the business was struggling. I was trying to get out of a distributor, which if anyone's tried that, it's not fun. We went a couple weeks later to my honeymoon, and I was a wreck and like anxious and just couldn't enjoy it. But I took this day and I enjoyed happiness. And at the end of the day, you have to take those times. And that's why I really wanted to bring in the fact that though it was my worst year of my life, this day was unbelievable and also gave me the strength to say, oh, I can be happy. So, the worst day of my life. I had been in therapy for over a year. I have dealt with mental health my entire life. My dad has depression, my older sister, anxiety. It runs in my family. We all have trauma. We've all experienced things that affect us and live with us. I still live with some of those things, and I'm in a great place. Like March, traditionally, big month for all of us. I personally don't like St. Patty's Day. I make a lot of money with our brewery, but I had a friend who was hit and killed my freshman year of college. And so that is one of those triggering events, so everyone has those things, right? And it can be small, it can be big, but they are your thing, and it's okay to have them. So I've been working through therapy. I was lucky, I found a phenomenal therapist. really just got me. We got each other. You might try a therapist and they might not work. Don't be surprised if the first one you go to you don't like. But don't just walk away, because having someone who is essentially has no skin in the game, listening to you, giving you some input that you don't already have your preconceived thought processes about, is huge. And Courtney helped me work through so much. And literally one of the big things we did was I just sat in it sometimes, just sat in what I was feeling, how I was feeling, and embrace that. Embrace what makes you sad and work your way through it. Don't push it away. Take a moment and figure some of that out. And so she had helped me a lot with that. We had finished, the distribution thing, business, who got into brewing to make a lot of money. Still 12 years later trying to figure that out. That weighs on me, and it was weighing on me and my people and my family. So I was struggling and not getting better. And when I went to my therapist, I talked about that I had been on medication before, and not everyone needs medication. Some people do. And she was like, nope, let's not do that right away. But we got to this day where Tessa looked at me and thought, if I leave, I don't know what's going to happen to my husband. And that was so traumatic and sad for me, because I am fortunate enough to have my support team to know that what could happen would hurt so many other people. I didn't want to kill myself, but I certainly didn't want to live anymore, and it was all consuming. And to have that moment and see her look at me, I realized, okay, today I have to make a change. And so I called up Courtney, we sat down, we talked, and she's like, you need to call your doctor and go get back on meds, and see if that helps. So about a week later, I'm in the doctor's office. They give you a little tablet. You got to fill out some questions. Are you feeling sad? Yes. Overwhelmed. It just kept going. I knew we were in for a rough one that day when my doctor walked in with tears in her eyes already. And she's like, Chris, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay, but I want to be okay. I'd finally gotten to a point where I was like, I don't have to be sad. And I know it's still a long way off and it's going to take work, but you don't have to be sad. It is absolutely safe and okay to be sad, and I will give a hug to anyone who needs one. I'm always here to talk to people, but you don't have to be sad. And we got started on, I take fluoxetine, Percocet, the happy pills. I use it works great, love it. And then I was still struggling with sleep, hadn't slept, and my anxiety. Essentially what it does is it takes all the craziness that's up here that I'm all anxious about and says, okay, cool, it's there, but you're not stuck in it. And a couple weeks later, I came back and I was like, listen, I'm still not sleeping. I got on trazodone, which is anti-anxiety medicine. Oh my God, that first morning after not sleeping for 3 years, nothing better than that. I walked in and I was singing. Everyone knows when I'm in a really good place because I'll sing. And my two brewers go, oh, Daddy's back. He's singing, Those moments are just something that you can't describe, and you don't even necessarily feel them in the moment, but you don't know how low you are until you talk about it. And that's my story. And here's my toolkit, right? Everyone should have a toolkit. You don't know what your toolkit is today. I didn't know what my toolkit was a few years ago. I have it now. Right off the bat, right? Family and friends. That's always been part of my life. I look around this room and I see a lot of people that are very near and dear to me. So you have that. For me, I tried therapy, and it really helped. I had tried therapy before, didn't love it, found the right person, and really was able to open up and move past some things that I decided I wanted to hold on to, I wanted to feel bad about because they were bad, but I wasn't moving through them, and really, really helped me with that. Ultimately, therapy wasn't enough for me, so we moved to medication, and it really turned everything around. It really took the chemical imbalances that I was having and made me able to manage and control my stress, my anxiety, my triggers. I'm probably just as stressed as I was in 2018. We're probably just as crazy. I just took over our whole entire front of house. We bought out our food partner, took that all over, so now I run a restaurant too, which wasn't necessarily what I planned to do, but I'm in such a great place because of this toolkit that I'm able to now keep moving forward. Instead of shutting down, I move forward. These things, right? I love to say that I work out. I don't. I try to. I walk a little bit, I'm trying to do more exercise. I do decompress, and you've got to figure out what that is. I like video games. They're my thing, like Assassin's Creed. It's great. I'll go play that for a couple hours, and that really helps me decompress. Trying to eat healthier. I finally years ago I had to talk to my doctor. Don't ask me how much I drink. You don't want to know, and I don't want to tell you. Obviously our industry, right, it's not easy, but sometimes taking that step back. I'm actually on 3 weeks, and it's not terrible, but I have a goal, going back to the stress. My wife and I are trying to start a family, and we haven't had success. And, now we're doing IVF, and part of that is, if she's got to take all the shots, I am not going to drink to support our family. And, it's finding those things. And I have so many things now in front of me to live for, to look forward to. So, all this stuff is my toolbox, but this one's the biggest one. I stopped lying to myself. I stopped lying to my friends. I stopped just saying, I'm good, I'm okay. When you're saying you're okay, and they can read the shrink wrap tears in your eyes and barely holding it together, your friends see it, and they care. Not everyone's comfortable to say, hey, are you sure you're okay? Is something wrong? But this really is the part that once you do it, once you show your vulnerability, you gain so much strength. So I'm up here a little too jazzed up talking about mental health, and really in a great place, and hoping that I help someone, give you some space to feel comfortable, or you see someone and you take that extra step, because being vulnerable is probably my biggest strength anymore. And I'm just very lucky to have gotten to the other side, right? So this is my sister. She's a terror. I love her, but she's always beat me up back in the day. This is me in 2019, right after this is June and July, right after I just got on medication. So that early 2018 to 2019 spring, tough, really tough. And this is me, and that's my smile. That is my real smile. That's me over the moon, excited at the Rochester Real Beer Expo, hanging out with my friends. Wasn't dreading it, wasn't in a position where, okay, I gotta get there. I'll get there, it'll be fun. Put it all, I'm very much an extrovert introvert, so I do like being loud and being me, but I do need my time. before this, everything was, I can't be in a crowd. I don't want to be around you. I hope you're calling to tell me we're not going out tonight. Please cancel the plans. This is, I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to these events. So, hopefully, and, I'm rushed through my slides a little bit, but hopefully, we can have more of a conversation on this right now. But, what I really want you to see is, there we go. Start from current side. I had really bad times. I still struggle. I still take medication. I don't see Courtney that much. I mean, she literally fired me a few times. That's why I think I loved her as a therapist. Instead of we'll keep working towards it, she finally was like, cool, you don't need to see me anymore. But I have her, text her anytime I want, and if I need to get back in. But I made it to the other side, and I found strength from it. You can be sad today, and that's fine. You might be sad for months, but you don't have to be sad forever. And you're probably going to be sad again. It happens. There's things that are going to make you sad, and there's things that are going to make you happy. But there is another side. And if you can find that perspective, that's just a huge part of it. Because in the moment, there is no perspective. I'm not underestimating anyone's depression or downplaying it. When it feels like an elephant sits on your chest and you are absolutely alone and in pain and you haven't slept, that is horrible. It's horrible. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what I hope you guys get out of this. And I'm gonna turn it over to questions.
So is this, okay, so I have a quick question though. So when you think about depression and everything Chris just shared with you, and he said there's light at the end of the tunnel, could he get through that tunnel if he didn't take action? And all right, that's the piece. We have to be intentional about what we're doing for our health, mental health or physical health. How many of you have somebody in your family that maybe has a diabetes diagnosis? Raise your hand. Or somebody that has had cancer, or somebody that has had a heart attack or has heart disease, right? All of us. Our physical health and our mental health are no different, but we don't see the mental health, and it's much easier to think, oh, I'm tough. I can overcome this. I can take care of this. The business might be stressful and the family life might be stressful and everything else, but I can pony up and take care of this, right? Because it's not a broken leg. If you broke your leg and had this awful, your bone is sticking out and, really awful compound fracture, what would you do?
I'd go to the doctor, and
right?
Everyone would be like, hey, you got a bone hanging out there.
Yeah, so would any of you that know Chris really well and you're in his tribe of people, would any of you be able to take care of that compound fracture? No, right? You're not trained to do that. He's like, I can pull it back into place. Yeah, right? Yeah. I ask high school students that question all the time. If your friend fell and they cut their leg open and it's obvious it needs more than a Band-Aid, are you capable of fixing that? But what can you do? And what has Chris's tribe of friends done for him? You can be supportive, you can listen, you can be there, you can be the reminder that, you know what? I know you're feeling this way now. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but let's connect you to some help. Have you seen your doctor recently? Have you talked to somebody about this? Because I'm not a trained mental health professional, and I want to make sure you're taking care of yourself because your mental health is just as important as your physical health. That's something we can all say, right? It's as simple as that. It's really about having that conversation and being open about it.
Yeah, and the listening is key, right? Sometimes you just need to be heard, right? Sometimes just saying what's wrong, and I have to do it with my wife especially, of just listen. But it helps, someone being heard is so important, right? That feeling of loneliness when someone looks you in the eyes and they follow you and they pay attention to what you're saying, it's huge.
Do you know what other word you can make with all of the words all of the letters in listen?
I do not.
Anyone? Mix up the word. What else can it make? Danielle knows the answer.
Silent.
Silent, yeah. Okay, how many of you have a really hard time staying silent and not trying to fix it, right? How many of you have kids? Anyone have kids? Anyone? I knew I wasn't the only one in the room, right? And they bring a problem to you. How many of you are just, okay, as a parent, you want to fix it, right? So we try to give them our advice. And my daughter once said to me, Mom, I just want you to listen. I just need to talk about this. And I need somebody to listen because then I feel better. I don't need you to fix it, right?
Right.
So what did your friends do? And when you started sharing with them and everything,
They listened, they listened. And a lot of them were just there,
without judgment, right?
Without judgment, right? I mean, Kurt has seen me through everything. He's seen me bawling like a baby in the back of the brewery on St. Patty's Day because, well, I drank a little too much. I'm a little anxious. It's late. It's about the time my friend died. I've just lost it. Stood next to me at my wedding when I cried as Tess walked out, of course. So, yeah, I didn't hold it together. But
So it's really important.
Dean.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
So you went through your whole entire life without a come to Jesus moment, being depressed and fighting depression your whole life. What if you never would have had that come to Jesus moment where your wife said, holy cow, you look like Grandpa, I'm staying home?
I don't know, right? Because I'd probably still be struggling, right? If you never get to the worst day, right? I'd probably just still be struggling, would still be, doing therapy. But luckily I was in a position where I was taking steps forward, right? And I saw success even in the darkest hour. But if I don't know, right? There's always today to start, right? If you haven't started, if it isn't that bad, if you don't have a come to Jesus moment, doesn't mean that you're not still hurting, and doesn't mean that you can't start, right? And you might not need everything that I needed, but I don't know,
Well, and if I can help give some insight on that, do you have to hit rock bottom to move forward? Do you have to? I mean, what's the point in that, right? What's the point? We always tell people they have to hit rock bottom before they're going to get better. No, that's craziness. That's foolishness. You can take small steps every day. Now, you mentioned you don't get a lot of exercise, but you also shared with me you get about 12,000 steps. Was it you that shared that with me?
I
in the
did
brewery?
at one point.
And how many of you feel like you get like 5 miles in at the brewery on a normal day?
Yeah.
Right? So you're moving your body.
Right.
Let's take it from this perspective for just a second. What are the risk factors for heart attack? And all, like if biology, right? Your physics and all, your physical sense. So if you have high blood pressure or anything like that, your history, what's happened in your family? Do you have a history of cardiac arrest, heart disease, anything else, or stroke or whatever? And your environment. Do you have a stressful environment? So if I have high blood pressure, and I have a stressful environment where I'm having to do a lot of heavy lifting and just the emotional, physical stress is a lot. And I also have a family history of heart disease. My doctor's probably going to tell me I'm at higher risk for heart attack, right? Heart attack or stroke. He's going to make recommendations, right? He's going to tell me, you know what, Karen, you probably need to be on a medication. You probably need to get some exercise. You need to change your diet, lower the sodium, X, Y, and Z. You need to manage your stress, get good sleep. If I do nothing to mitigate those things, am I doing anything to prevent heart attack? No, right? So you have to be intentional about it. And your very question, what would have happened? What is the ultimate worst outcome for mental health deterioration? It's somebody dying, right? Somebody being in a moment of desperation. And you said it. You said you didn't want to die.
Right.
And all your thinking was, I just didn't want to wake up again. I didn't want to keep going.
Yeah.
There's
I
a
just don't
difference.
want to feel this anymore.
Yeah.
And I had been doing therapy for over a year, so I'd already tried, and things had just not gotten better. But yeah, there's a point where you're like, I don't want to feel like this, and if I'm not awake, then I don't feel like this. So yeah, it's definitely the last outcome you want, and being able to just try. I'm fortunate enough that the people in here mean so much to me that the thought of them not having me around is more painful than the thought of my worst day. So, that's where I was fortunate enough. So.
And I came to this space, my husband was an Army officer with the 82nd Airborne Division and a professional pharmaceutical rep for years. His brother was an immigration lawyer, and both of them died by suicide. They were both educated, they came from a good, healthy family. And so I came to this space as a volunteer over 13 years ago with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. But I joined the staff 3 years ago. And one of my favorite things to do is educate people. How many of you have ever been in a restaurant, or maybe you even have it in your own brewery space somewhere, a sign that says what to do? Somebody's choking or having a heart attack or something like that, right? We see them all the time. I can talk to 6th graders, and they know the basics of CPR and first aid. Just, they've never taken a Red Cross course, but they know the basics. If Chris is choking, how many of you, if he's choking right here in front of you, you're gonna whack him on the back, be like, yo, buddy, I'm not gonna have you choke right here and die, right? Or if he's having a heart attack, you wouldn't say to him, Chris, if you ate a little better and you exercised more, you wouldn't be in this position, right? You would do something, you would take action, whether that's starting chest compressions or performing CPR, calling 911, getting help, right? It really is as simple as that. And you are all in an industry that's male dominated. And guys, it's hard to talk about this stuff, right? We didn't grow up talking. How many of you grew up talking at the Sunday dinner table with the extended family about who had mental health diagnosis in the family, right? Nobody. And yet it's that tough guy image, and it's that, oh, you're great, okay, good, and you move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, this isn't weakness.
No.
This right here, telling you all how bad I felt, it's not weakness. I'm stronger than I've ever been, and I'm fortunate enough to have a huge support cast. But this is the hard stuff. Is coming out, saying that you feel this way, and choosing to give yourself permission to be happy. So that's definitely something that I hope y'all take away from this.
Was that a bit of taking that elephant off the chest too? When you finally said, okay, I need to talk about this, I need to do something about it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you gave voice to it?
Yeah, and also, just so you know, all the things that you're feeling, sad-wise, depression, probably half the people you talk to are feeling the exact same way. And just knowing that, if your brewery's struggling, I'm sure the person next to you that owns a brewery is probably feeling the same way. If you're struggling with stuff, they are too. And it's so nice, again, when you feel very alone, to know that you're not alone. Even if it's momentary relief, that's what you're working for. It's just slowly releasing that tension. So, once I was off, trust me, if anyone had severe COVID or has had asthma, that's what depression feels like. That's what your chest feels like, and you're just a ball of anxiety. Once that's off, and you're like, ooh, cool, I don't have to go to the chiropractor today because everything's not really tight and out of whack. So there's something to be said about that. So.
One of the things you mentioned was therapy and medication, right? And so for a lot of people, it is being able to just talk to somebody simply and being able to share what's going on, get some outside perspective, and help to change that conversation you're having in your head, because it's not all in the head, right? But we need to be able to talk about it. But for some people too, it is medication. But this is the thing, is that medication, it wasn't like, hey, you took this magic pill and all of a sudden you felt better, right?
Right. So I had been on medication before, so I knew that my family, our health, we have some chemical imbalances, and I used medication for success before. When I went this time to my therapist, she's like, no, let's not just jump there. And we worked through so much more and got through all the little things along the way that we build up and we take on, and we take them on when we're yay big, right? We have no choice. It's just part of growing up as a human. But it was after I'd worked through all that and had broken myself down to be more vulnerable, things were still compounding on that, and I needed something to just change the way I thought. It's a matter of like feeling like there's white noise just running through your head, because at the time it felt like 1,000 things were talking to me. Because you're thinking about things over and over and over and over and over again. And then that conversation's doing its own conversation, another one's doing a conversation. Turning that down, it's literally just turning the volume down for me, and that's where the medication worked for me. And also turned off that anxiety at night. Who goes to bed and just like hits that pillow and it's out, right? That's pretty nice, right? That is awesome. And some people do, a lot of us don't, right? Like as soon as we lay down, like, oh, I'm exhausted, lay down, boop, that problem's for tomorrow. This problem's tomorrow. I can lay down now. That problem's there. I'm like, cool, but now I got my, eye mask on, listening to my book, got my CPAP on. Like I'm out. I'm not snoring anymore. My wife loves that. So, but like that is such a big difference, because the next day when you wake up, your brain isn't just rerunning again. It's shut down. It's processed. It's rebooted itself. If you're not sleeping, definitely try to figure that out. That is something that is so critical. There's a reason why they use it as a form of torture, because it really messes with your mind. And being able to sleep, making healthy habits about you. I try to get off my phone at a certain point, and stop watching TV, so that when I go to bed, I'm not affected by that. And I have my routine. I turn on a book, and I got the whole face mask so you can't even see, blackout. It's beautiful. You should ask Kurt about me last year when I just they were all up in the room, we were all drinking, and then all of a sudden and I was out, and they're like, I don't know how you put that on, but it's those things that it takes a lot, and it's constantly working towards it, and it's constantly finding your voice, and that's what this is today. So.
And I hesitate to say this in a room full of brewers, but just a simple, really quick reminder that alcohol is a sleep disruptor. Okay, it might help you go to sleep and relax, but it's going to disrupt your sleep also. And sleep can be deadly. In the few weeks before my husband died, and he'd been really struggling. He was seeing a therapist. He was on medication. He was seeing a psychiatrist, and doing the work of it. But it was back in 2006 when people weren't talking about this. Things were pretty messed up. But that was one of the biggest pieces, was his lack of sleep. And suicide is a health issue, and depression, anxiety, it's a health issue. And so you have to be proactive about it, or you have to take steps to improve it if you feel like your mental health is deteriorating. And sleep is one of those big factors. Now, when you are lacking sleep, you're not thinking clearly, all those cognitive processes are off. And that's a dangerous point, because normally your perspective is wide open. You can think about coping mechanisms and skills and who I can reach out to. But when you're sleep deprived, everything is amplified, right? Yep. And all those worries, everything else is amplified. And you literally, your brain just can't even begin to process things that are going on and on. And so sleep deprivation can be deadly, okay? So come see us in the wellness room, because I can give you some good sleep tips.
It's also bad for your heart. It's bad for your health.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. What is serotonin? Anyone want to guess what serotonin? You know what serotonin is? It's one of the feel-good hormones in your body, helps regulate mood. Where is serotonin made?
Brain. Right. 90%
of the serotonin in your body is made in your gut. So that's another piece of it. Nutrition. What are you feeding your gut? There's the whole science between the brain-gut connection and all. So when you come over and fill out the survey, it's those questions about, are you getting good sleep? Are you feeding your body foods that love you and fuel you versus, I'm one of those adults that is treated for depression and anxiety, and boy, when I'm having a bad day, all I want to do is eat pizza and watch Netflix, right?
Pretzels.
Pretzels? Is that your
Pretzels,
go-to?
yeah. When I'm stressed.
Do you dip them in something?
No, just like
Just
the
straight up?
Snyderville hard pretzels.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really good.
Okay.
My wife hates it. They make a lot of crumbs. They're so crunchy. They're tasty, right? So,
Yeah.
we've got about 15 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Okay, so now when you're going through all this, right, both of you, right? So you went through trauma. How did it affect your significant others? And how did that affect you in turn? So when they're dealing with this, how did it affect your significant others? And how did they deal with it? Did they end up in therapy? Because it's kind of like, I'm not saying it's catchy, but it rubs off.
Yeah.
You're a little my background.
Yeah.
My ex-wife was bipolar and that
Yeah.
stuff, and that really rubbed off on me. I was
Yeah.
like, holy cow, I need counseling. It's scary.
It is. And there's times where I've just texted you and said, how are you doing? Because I think about you, and some of that stuff can be huge, and people did it for me. Tessa was really, really strong until last year. She had a really bad year. She's an accountant. I don't know if anyone knows how sucky it is to be an accountant sometimes, especially at a certain time of year. And just so you know, there are not enough accountants. People aren't going into the field anymore, so there's a lot of job opportunities to be an accountant. So she had a really bad year last year. And it definitely, when I was struggling, she could see it, but she had no clue how to help. She really had no clue. She had never really experienced it. My mother really had never really experienced it. My mom's, I think my mom's sad about some things, and I've tried to push her certain ways, and she's very much like, no, I'm good. But I'm like, all right, fine, Mom. I know you're the adult, but now we're at a certain age where I'm the adult. Watching Tessa struggle too with me struggling was hard, right? Because she had no perspective, no understanding. And then she finally had a really bad year. And I was in such a good place to help her. And how much she said, and she would reach out to her mom, and she's like, Chris has just been so helpful, and and she's like, you did it for him too, right? But it is hard. You affect everyone you're around. You think you're putting on a smile, you think you're, but it's a quick snap, it's quick yelling at someone, it's not wanting to do anything, and it can be draining. And so, you're not just helping yourself, you're helping a whole string of people, right? And we affect so many people every single day. There's just no way around it. Everyone you talk to ripples down the stream. And so, it can be hard. And luckily Tessa was pretty freaking amazing. So she still is. She rocks. So.
Yeah, and I'll just say the year before my husband died was probably the toughest year of my life. And other than the year after losing him, obviously. But it did put me in a place. But I think that part of the thing with mental health conditions, and there's no shame or stigma, and we all have mental health, but B, it's something that you can't see in your loved one necessarily, and if they don't have a diagnosis or they're not in treatment or anything else like that, it's really hard to understand, and so sometimes we internalize it. It's like having a loved one who has a substance use problem. We go, what did I do to cause that, right? And so you can't catch depression from somebody. You can't catch a bipolar diagnosis from somebody. Mental health is not contagious, but the external trauma of it, of caring for somebody, just like caring for somebody who has a long-term illness, and like Alzheimer's disease or stage 4 cancer or something, it's hard to be a caregiver of somebody who has a health condition, and mental health can be a chronic condition that really tends to wreak trauma on other family members and loved ones. So it really is a matter of putting on your own oxygen mask before you help somebody else, and having to create that boundary, and being able to take care of yourself, and say, you know what, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm here to support you. Let's do this together, but I'm going to put some boundaries in place.
Yeah, you can't own anyone else's depression.
Yeah.
You can't, because you don't know what's going on in their mind, right? You're not in their mind. You can't be there. You can try and be supportive, and you need to step back and do what's best for yourself. But like everyone, if they're gonna get better, they have to own their own space, because they're the only ones who know what's going on.
So what kind of advice would you give fellow brewers then if they have a loved one or a friend or family member who's struggling with their mental health, and they've offered assistance, and the person has either rejected it maybe or isn't open to seeing things like, so what would your advice, being on the other side of this, be to that person who's trying to support somebody?
That's a tricky one, because you want to help, but you don't want to be locked out too. Because it's very easy for someone who's depressed to just be like, done, not talking to you. Be there for that day, right? Be there the day that they can hear that they need the help, right? Be there, no matter how many times it takes, even though it's frustrating. Don't get mad. If they don't want the help, they don't want it. But the day that they need that help, trust me, they need that help. And the day that they can see it, like the day Tessa walked into the room, I could hear it all, and I could see it all, and I could take it, right? All of a sudden I came out of the fog that is depression. Just be there and don't own it. Don't let someone with depression rub on you to the point where it's detrimental to you and hurts you. Like, you have to step back, but if they come back to you, you just be there.
Yeah, my son is 24, and he's got a gaming group, right? Because you game with other people. Yeah. It's that community, and if they had a friend who kind of backed off from the group, wasn't responding to anybody, and they all kept reaching out via text and everything, like, hey, Liam, you okay? You okay? What's going on? Because they knew he'd been struggling. And after a while, the majority of the group were like, screw you, dude. Whatever. If you're not going to respond to our text, we care about you. But if you're not going to respond, then we're not going to keep reaching out. Oh, my son, like, we do that. I do this for a living, and you said that? That was my thinking. But one friend in the group kept texting Liam once a week, saying, hey, buddy, I'm here for you when you're ready. And I just want to check on you and say, hey. Well, 4 months later, Liam came out of that place that he was in, came back to the group and said, you know what? I'm here for other reasons too, but primarily because you kept checking in on me. You kept texting me. So if you have a friend and a fellow brewer, they're struggling, but whatever that is, any human being in your life, right? Just that simple reminder that, hey, Chris, I'm here for you. If you ever need someone to talk to, judgment-free, I'm here. And it opens up that door to that conversation. And then reminding them too, okay, have you checked in with your doctor? Have you seen your doctor? Have you gotten a physical lately? You should really probably go for a full physical, because they'll ask you some questions about your sleep and your thinking and your mental health and all, and you should probably do that. And have you ever talked to somebody about that? Man, I'm sure you share with people, sharing now, that yep. I talked to a therapist, and you don't see Courtney now, right? Nope. But she's there. Yeah. And I love that you said that she fired you. That's a good therapist. That's great. So just know how to connect somebody. I'm going to do a shameless plug for Greg from Heroes Brewing Company in Rochester. Danielle reached out to Greg, and they do a lot of beer labels for causes that they really care about and all. So they did a real convo label, and we partnered with,
my wife is the one who drew that label.
That's awesome.
My wife and I on that label.
That is amazing. Okay, I met your wife when they did the launch at the brewery. That is amazing. Yes. And they've shared that recipe and the label, but it has the 1-800. We're gonna have to redo the label with the 988 crisis and suicide and crisis hotline number. But it's something that you can do in support of the community. And connect with your local AFSP chapter or whatever. I don't care. Greg has said that he had so many customers come in and share their heartfelt stories with him. Tell them, oh my gosh, I am so grateful that you did this, that you're raising awareness. and that you're making it possible just for people to talk about, because that's your spaces are the spaces where people go to have conversations with the people that they care about, and you put a few back, and that tongue loosens up, and before you know it, you're sharing things with somebody, and so in that space, what's happening? So yeah, Greg has made that recipe and a label, that beautiful label, available, has information about the AFSP Real Convo website. Danielle was the one who kind of instigated that with Greg, and we're really grateful for that.
Yeah. Anything else?
So talking about like your toolkit, and
Yep.
I guess more of a comment than anything else. And I think that I've struggled with lots of trauma and mental health things through the year, both family, history, everything. I think something that took me a really long time to learn was that everybody's toolkit is different, and when you're so like in that bad spot, and you're like, well, this didn't work, it's very easy to get discouraged, but like, you almost have to look at like a child like in a toy store of like, okay, what's gonna be the thing that like works for me? And I think that's something that a lot of people that I know get hung up on, are like, oh, you try, not this is gonna work, for you is not gonna necessarily work for me. I think that's something that is very important in the conversation.
Yeah. It's you gotta keep trying, because not everything's gonna work.
One thing I just wanted to share is that our company really did a nice job of putting up in public places our employee assistance program number and insurance numbers to call if you were having a problem drinking too much or if you were having a problem with depression. And just having that readily accessible, and then maybe having a couple gentle reminders every couple months, I think really helped normalize people, because then you start to hear people say I just need a mental health day. And that wasn't like, oh, I gotta work harder because you need a mental health day. I'll take mine when I need mine, and you take yours when you. And people were also saying, I love my new therapist. I love this.
Right.
So by normalizing it and putting it out there, I think a lot of people got help. And that was just from some HR policies. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. And it's the 988, right?
Yeah, so it used to be 1-800-273-8255, and the
That's a
national
lot.
line now is 988.
And it's under 30 seconds. That changed things, right? Just being able to, suicide rates have plummeted a bit because you can actually get 988, boom, done. Yeah, but again, making it more normal, making it so that you feel like it's okay to be sad. Everyone's sad sometimes, so.
Yeah, and when Chris uses the word sad and all, there's a difference between sad is a healthy emotion that we all experience when bad things happen in life, or whatever. Sadness and those feelings that go along with it, that debilitating, you don't want to get out of bed, you're stopping self-care, you're not sleeping good, you're withdrawing from activities that you normally enjoy, you're not enjoying being around people anymore, all of those things. If it lasts 2 weeks or longer, it's time to get help. It's time to go see your doctor, get that check-in and everything, get that checkup from the neck up, I always say. Because 2 weeks is, if you have a young person, a teenager, a kid in your life, anyone, 2 weeks that their behavior's been off, their sleep isn't good, they're moody, maybe they're very agitated. Males tend to, that's one of the things, if somebody is getting to a crisis point, they might get more agitated than normal, and more snippy. And so 2 weeks, don't let it go beyond that for your own health. You wouldn't, if you were having chest pain for 1 day, I would hope you would call a doctor, right? You wouldn't go beyond 2 weeks. You're like, what the heck is going on here? And also 2 weeks and all that chronic sadness, depression, all those things, don't let it go beyond 2 weeks. And that you can also, for your brewery, we made these in all of our New York State chapters. They're just free coasters that you can come to the wellness room. There's a QR code you can scan, and it has that crisis line on the back, as well as it just on the front it says have a real convo about mental health, and then it has the website information for a real convo on there. So you can get those for free from us. I encourage you to take one of these cards, connect with your local chapter. Within At Heroes Brewery, I dropped off a whole bunch of just our little lifesaver cards to Greg, and not to leave in the bathrooms and stuff, you know. And when I went to the fire chiefs and EMS conference in Syracuse last year, much like the Brewers Conference, it's primarily male. And none of the guys were stopping by our table. They'd see American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and go, oh, yep. They didn't want to talk, right? So we asked one of the guys in the booth next to us, we were like, hey, can you go put these in the men's room? And they did. They took those lifesaver cards that we had made specifically for the EMS and firefighter environment, and they put them up in the men's bathroom, and they kept disappearing. So people were taking them. They wanted to have the conversation. They just didn't want to stop by the table and talk about it. So the more you're talking about it, the more, like you said, with your EAP and stuff, just normalize it. Normalize it for your employees. Normalize it in the community where you are. And thank you for sharing that your toolbox is not always the same. Whew. I made my son go to therapy for over a year. And after a year, the therapist was like, look, Karen, I've tried to crack this. And I can't. He wants to talk about movies and history and politics and everything else, but we're wasting our time and your money here. And my son was like, told you so, Mom. So it's not a one size fits all, that's for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for everyone who shared. And I'm going to head over to Wellness Center, too. So.